What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of No Cap MV Podcast. Oh yeah! It is your girl, your host, Nati. Remember, guys, you are in an episode where it is all real talk, real vibes, and no cap. I hope everybody is doing great. I hope everybody had a great, blessed week. I hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. I hope you guys appreciated the time, the blessing of having your mother here. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have their mother present anymore, unfortunately, and it's a sad situation. So if you do have your mother here still, I hope that you appreciated that day. I hope that it was a day full of love and blessings to you guys and your families. On this side, we had a great Mother's Day, thankfully. I ended up going to church with my family, and yeah, it was just a blessed day, you guys. I hope everybody is doing good, is staying solid, is staying blessed up, and yeah, that's all that really matters. Today's episode is going to be a deep one. We are going to be getting into breaking generational curses, the habits, the trauma, the mindset, the pain, the anger, the struggles, and the survival modes that get passed down generation after generation like it is normal. And listen, before we get into this episode, we are not, capital letters, N-O-T, not blaming our parents, blaming the people that took care of us, blaming our family, or just in general where we come from. I feel like a lot of our people and our parents did the best that they could, even if sometimes it doesn't seem that way. But eventually somebody in the family has to be the one to step up and just say, it stops with me. Whether it's just toxic relationships, whether it's just violence, addictions, poverty mindsets, emotional unavailability, fears, lack of communications, or more like surviving instead of living. And we definitely got to talk about this one. Have you guys ever caught yourself becoming something you said that you would never become? For example, like reacting to parents, healing that anger the same way. That's the scary part about generational curses, that sometimes it fully lives in us before we even realize it. If you guys saw my last episode, the title was Growing Up or Being Raised in a Hispanic Household. And there was a lot of points that I got into that I talked about, that kind of, some of them were pretty funny, but I feel like sometimes they're not really funny. Sometimes they are traumatic in a way. I think I hit a lot of very good points where I talked about stuff that sometimes actually is traumatic to us and that sticks with us growing up. By the way, if you guys have not checked that episode out, go check that latest episode out. I promise you it's a little bit of everything, but today we are on a more serious note because there's a lot of stuff that I brought up in that episode that I kind of like am dragging it to this episode, and it just clicked in my head in the moment. Like, I already knew while I was recording that episode, I already knew what I was going to talk about for this episode. So if you guys want to go check it out, don't hesitate to go check out the latest video, and you guys will fully understand where I'm coming from, because I feel like it was a little bit of a joke, and then, you know, it got to a little bit more serious about being raised in a Hispanic household, and that's what made us end up being here, having a deep talk, because I just feel like sometimes in Hispanic households it's just like that. Like, a lot of people take things as a joke, or even traumas are funny nowadays or when you're grown, but low key it's like, you know, we really struggled growing up and it's not as funny as it seems. Sometimes people just hear the word curse and think that it's a spiritual movie type of stuff. A generational curse is something that is repeated. It's repeated pain, traumas, struggles that people don't overcome and that people don't heal from. For example, in my last episode, we were getting into how Hispanic parents do not know how to communicate. I think that is one of the most main reasons as to why sometimes there's broken families. And I think that communication has a lot to do in it. Sometimes, even if there might be communication, but if there's no understanding with communication, then there's no point to communicate. Because you could easily communicate, you could sit down, talk about the same things, but if there's not a fully understanding of where that person is coming from, then there's no point to sit down and talk. Like, at this point, we're just wasting our time, because neither you respect what I'm saying, neither I respect what you're saying, and we just don't agree. So sitting down, communicating can sometimes be even more toxic than just letting the problem be. And that's what we were getting into the last episode. And I think that was a very good point that I talked about that I want to drag into this episode, because I don't think, I can't stress it enough. Like, I just don't think Hispanic parents get it. I don't think parents understand the trauma, the pain that they pass on to their kids. To them, it's normal because it's something that they lived through. It's how they were raised. And honestly, it sucks to say, and I'm not victimizing nobody, but at the end of the day, they didn't know better. Just like you and I one day didn't know better. Just like we were out here hurting people's feelings. We were out here being pieces of shit to our parents. We didn't know better. That's what was passed down to us. So imagine somebody talking shit about us, how we used to be, how we used to talk to our parents, how we used to act with our parents, the bullshit that we did that our parents didn't show us. There's stuff that our parents did pass down to us, but there's also bad habits that we picked up on our own that we didn't see our parents doing. So sometimes we end up picking up even worse habits than what our parents had. But yet we still sit here and talk crap about our parents because they weren't great parents. But at the end of the day, there was stuff that we picked up on that they didn't do. So at the end of the day, it's like you're pointing fingers, but there's like 3 pointing back at you because you're not understanding that everybody makes mistakes. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up. We all fall. We all get up. And it's just a cycle that never stops until you decide to put an end to it. I feel like there is nothing worse than being in a family, having parents that just don't know how to communicate, that don't know how to bring the right words, that don't know how to nurture you naturally with their words, with their positive words. I feel like some parents just end up making everything worse. And I ain't talking about my parents because, but, I feel like I could talk from a point where I used to be and what my relationship was with my parents, my family, and how we overcame and ended up, we're not perfect. Let me get that straight. I'm not sitting here talking like me and mine are perfect, because we are not. But we have overcame. In these years, we have overcame so much struggles, so much bullshit. We had to, me and my mom, for example, like there was we had to repair our relationship, time lost. Like, yes, I was living with her. She raised me at all times. My mama raised me, she always made sure that I had a roof over my head, that I had food on my table, that I had clothes on my back, shoes on my feet. Like, I'm not even gonna sit here. We did struggle, but thank God and thank my mother that nothing was ever needed. I was never in need of nothing. I might have been in need of money. I might have been in need of like new fits and all that. We probably could have lived a better life, but at the end of the day, my mama did what she could, and I will forever applaud to her. There's nothing that I can complain about. Like, my mama, if you guys know me, you know where I come from. And my mama has always been a single mother of two. And, she has always made it happen. And I could literally shed a freaking tear, bro. Every time I think about it, every time I meditate on it and all that, I always think about it and I'm like, damn, bro, my mama went through so much shit, bro. But one thing is for sure, that she never gave up. She never once gave up. She never once complained in our face. She never once not even cried in our face. That's how strong my mama is. And, I feel like that is something that literally keeps me up on my feet whenever I want to quit, whenever I have wanted to just give up. My mama's always in the back of my head, and she will forever be in the back of my head, even if the day she's not here, whether she leaves before I do or I leave before she does from this earth. But my mama's legacy will forever live in me. I'm being so dead ass. Like, she is the perfect example of everything in my life. My mama is the perfect example. And honestly, like, to be honest, you would not hear those words coming out of my mouth a couple years ago. Like I said, we have been through a lot of struggles. And I think communication was always one of them. Just a lack of understanding, a lack of understanding where I'm coming from. And also a lack of understanding from where my parents were coming from. Because it always takes two. It always takes two. Yes, we could have been hit with trauma and pain and all that, but we weren't as perfect kids either, And yeah, like I said, if you guys were to see how me and my mom get along now, I think nobody would ever guess that at one point I hated her. And it's tough to say, and she knows this, that's the crazy part. Despite her doing everything she did, we did have our struggles, we did have our differences. And I think that that is what made me turn into somebody I'm not going to say I didn't want to be, because in the moment, that's literally what I wanted to be. That's literally where I wanted to be. So I'm not going to sit here and blame my mom for my decisions, because that would be very foolish of myself to just say that I chose these paths because of my mom. That's very foolish. And once again, that's one thing about me is that I am not a victimized mindset. I'm not going to turn here and be a little victim. That is one thing that I do not condone and that I don't do, because at the end of the day, I also had my faults. I also had my flaws, and I also took decisions that I shouldn't have taken. I've always heard, that there's great parents that raise very good kids, and those kids end up being bad kids when they grow up, bad people when they grow up. And I have also heard that very bad parents end up raising very bad kids, and those kids end up being good people when they grow up. So I don't think, I think a lot of it has to do in the way you grew up. But at the end of the day, if you're a victimized mindset, you're always going to look at who to point the finger at. And I think that's our problem. And that's why most of the time we don't grow, we don't mature, because we're always looking at who to point the finger at, we're always looking at whose fault it was that I grew up with this pain, whose fault it was that I am in these shoes. You know what I mean? Instead of pointing the finger at ourselves and taking accountability of what we decided to do with our life. We could have easily continued going to school. We could have easily gotten a good job. We could have easily went to college, graduated from college, but we decided to do other things. We decided to do the bad and choose the bad instead of choosing the good. So who do you think that's on? It's on us, because our parents didn't put a gun to our head like, you better be in the streets. My mom didn't put a gun to my head telling me, you better go be in the streets. You better go find these green banging ass friends. You know what I mean? You better go do this. You better start smoking. You better start drinking. My mama never did that. And one thing's for sure is that she never gave me those examples. I probably have family that that did come with that cycle of like gang life. I have unfortunately I do have family that comes from that gang life. Like, I was not the only one, but my mother never had anything to do in that. It was more like uncles, cousins, and stuff like that. So, it's a cycle. Once again, we're talking about breaking cycles. And that was a cycle that happened in our family. And that cycle brought a lot of pain. That cycle brought a lot of losses. And, this is why I feel like just taking accountability for your own actions will bring you a long way. And that is something that I have learned within these past, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I just learned how to take accountability for my actions within the past year. And now every time I know that I messed up, like, you don't even have to tell me that I messed up. In my head, I already know that I did the wrong thing. I already know that I'm saying the wrong thing in the moment. So I feel like you having to come clarify where I went wrong, it means that I'm not self-aware. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like you not being self-aware will always make you brush your mistakes and your flaws off your shoulders. But that's the wrong thing to do, because that's how you continue those bad cycles. That's how you continue those generational curses. You have to take accountability for yourself, for your mindset, for your life. And there's a point in life where you just grow up. You want to get rid of all those bad negative thoughts, those negative feelings, like every shit you went through. Like, it's not that you're going to toss it out the window, because that shit never goes away. At the point where I am today, sometimes you do struggle. Sometimes those thoughts want to come back into your head, but there is something always more powerful than you, and that is God. And, I feel like God has been the GOAT in my life, to be honest. He has been the one that has always came through. And this is not a preach or a religious preach or a religious thing, but it's just the truth, and I am not gonna stay shut to the truth. And to me, God is the one that has always came through, that has always pushed me, that has always saved me, that has always helped me. And thankfully, I thank him for giving me the mindset that he gave me. You guys might not think I have a lot of knowledge in this and that, whatever, but that's your opinion at the end of the day. I feel like that's why I live the way I live. And it's because, God has blessed me with my own mind, with my own thought, with my own will. Like I said, I'm not perfect, and I'm not here to pretend to be perfect. We struggle every day. We try to break cycles every day, try to do something different every day. And that's all that matters. Nobody's perfect. You're going to slip. You're going to fall. You're going to have your mistakes, your struggles every day. But I feel like, not giving up, not going back to those same cycles, it's what comes a long way. I used to go to my church. The pastor at my church always says, there's no point for you to swim so much just for you to die at shore. You know what? Do you guys get what that means? It kind of says like you struggled and you worked so hard to get to shore, to swim to shore, just for you to die once you get to shore. Meaning, like, to me, I take that as, you struggled, you swam, you swam so much, you put so much energy into making it to shore that at the end of the day, you died at shore. Meaning as in, you went back to square one. That's how I see it. You went back to square one. Once you were at shore, it's like you went back to square one and you pushed yourself back again. It might be like the shittiest example, but I hope you guys understand what I mean, because I understand what I mean. But It's not about me understanding. I want us to like communicate and understand each other. And I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from, because breaking generational curses, breaking patterns in your own life really does come a long way. And I'm not here talking to you guys like I'm perfect, because I'm not, guys. I struggle every day. I pray to God every day, but that's the most important thing. I seek God. I pray to him every day. I put everything in his hands. What's meant for me, then so be it. And what's not meant for me, God, then please remove it from my life. God knows everything, and he knows what's best for us and what's not good for us. And, that's all that matters. Like, as long as we know that we are in God's hands, there's nothing that we should worry about. There is nothing that can come against us. And if we put our foot down and break the cycle, then God will be there to help us, as long as we put him first. There are cycles that you cannot break alone. Woof. And I wasn't even going to get into this. Oh my goodness. Oh, Jesus, you are talking. But guys, the truth of it all is that sometimes you want to break a certain cycle, and you find yourself going back, failing. The devil throws that situation at you because he already knows who you are. He knows what sets you back. He knows what gets you angry. He knows what gets you depressed. He knows your life better than you do. You don't have to believe me. But the devil sees everything. The devil does not sleep. He knows you better than you do, than you know yourself. And that's why he knows how to trigger you. He knows how to trigger us. He knows what gets us mad. He knows what makes us explode. And he's always gonna use those little things to get to us, to get us to go back to square one. So that's why I'm saying there's struggles, there's curses, patterns that you cannot break on your own. There's patterns and curses that the only one that can break them is God. And the only way you can do that for yourself as well is praying to him, keeping God first, praying to him, fasting. All that helps you break these generational curses that you can't do with your own strength. There's stuff that you cannot do with your own strength. There's stuff that you need Jesus for. Like, I feel like there's little things, that you can work on within yourself, but there's bigger things in us, heavier chains on us that only God can help. And that is the word for today. Only God can help you break any generational curse, any pattern in your life. Only God can help you. And only God can help me. And that's something that I've been realized. And that's why I talk how I talk. I walk how I walk. And I always walk in faith. And people look at me. People look at me because of how I am. People look at me because of how I dress. And, and they hear my words. They hear me talking about God. And it's just like a mind blown thing. And mind you, like I said, these things would have never came out of my mouth. Thankfully, I was raised in a Christian church since I was like 6 years old, but obviously the way I grew up and how I was, you would have never expected something like that, or expected to hear anything like that. But yeah, you guys, I literally grew up in a Christian church, and my mom has shown me always, every day, has never stopped praying for me. She has shown me every day good from bad. Like I said, I am the one that chose to do certain bad things that caused me to have bad results. And that's my fault, I feel like the bad communication from parents and family is just like top, like it's just probably like a main one. Like, not knowing how to communicate with your loved ones really affects you in life. Like I said, sometimes you don't even have to agree with each other. Sometimes you don't have to have the same POVs, but as long as you guys respect one another, don't cross boundaries, that's literally all that truly matters. Like, you guys don't have to see eye to eye, be like besties, but at the end of the day, I feel like what really matters is just that respect, that love, that loyalty. And once again, I give myself as an example with my mom. Me and my mom grew up having a shitty ass relationship. Even if she was Christian, there was still things and flaws and stuff in her heart, even from her childhood, that she didn't get over. So I just feel like it takes a long way. It really takes a long way to repair, to rebuild a relationship. Yeah, it goes a long way, and it always takes two really dedicated and loving people to really take those steps into wanting to repair a relationship. Like I said, you guys see me and my mom today, and you guys would never expect us to get along, that we didn't get along back in the day. You guys would have never expected us to not get along, yeah, and everything now, after we each had our own experience, after I let God come in my heart, after I let God break those chains, after I decided to give my life to God and, let God work in my heart, and I gave him everything that was in me, and I didn't keep nothing, I feel like it came a long way, and it genuinely, naturally fixed our relationship. It took time to rebuild the trust, but God made it happen. And the only reason why God made it happen is because my heart opened up to it. I had a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of things in my heart, resentment towards parents, family members. I never felt loved growing up. I always felt like that outsider, even from my own mom, to be honest. So I feel like, sometimes I just felt like I was a mistake. Like I didn't belong here, like I didn't belong anywhere, there's like deeper shit, man. I just never felt loved, I never felt understood. I never felt supported. Like there was just a lot, and I just had a lot on my shoulders, on my chest, like in my heart. So many things that I went through as a kid that just completely like shattered me, and it brought me into a dark space. Not a dark space as in depression, but a dark space as in me choosing the bad things, just self-sabotaging myself into ruining my life, and we came a long way, thank God. I was the one that had to step up. Everybody was willing. My mom was willing to, she has always been there. She has always loved me. I know that for a fact. My family has always loved me. They've always been there through good and bad. I'm not gonna sit here and cap or victimize myself once again. I feel like my mom, like, we really came a long way. She was always willing to fix the relationship. She was always trying at the end, like when I was growing up and she started going to this different church. It's like everything changed. I saw the growth in her. I saw that she had changed. She was trying to be there for me and every possible way, trying to talk to me, trying to spend time with me, trying to build that trust. But I was the one that was closed in. And I was closed in, and I kept rejecting her because I still had those grudges. I still had that pain in my heart. I still had that pain in my head. I still had those chains that weigh over my shoulder where I wasn't truly free. And it took a lot, and it took a lot. And I remember that I ended up going to her church, and that's where everything kind of changed. It didn't change from one day to another, but I remember that I got prayed for. I feel like going to that church, there's always a word from God, to my life going there. And there has always been since day one. And, yeah, I remember that I got called up by the pastor and his sister, and they literally started praying for me, and God spoke to me through them. And there was just a lot of stuff. And mind you, these are people that didn't even know who I was. These are people that didn't even know what our family dynamic was like and all what we had been through. But guess who did? God did. He know everything. And, that day God just spoke through them. He used the vessel. And, he spoke to my life. And I remember that I just couldn't stop crying. Like, it was not even like a cry. It was just like a deep cry, you guys. Like it felt like something was stabbing my heart. It felt like I just couldn't even open my eyes. Like I was just bending down, crying, sobbing, and feeling this pain in my heart. And I'm literally about to cry talking about it. And I feel like it's because only I know what I have been through and the stuff that I would feel towards my mom. And it sucks that I felt that at one point because, the way just God works is very like mysterious, and it's very amazing. Because I would have never expected God to like break those chains from my heart, from my life, things that I felt with my dad, just not feeling loved, and feeling that pain in my heart while I was getting prayed for. Like I felt like God was doing something in me, because I opened myself to him. And that's the most important part. When you open yourself to God in your heart, truly 100%, like this is not a 10%, 20%, 30%. Like you gotta go 100% and like open up and let God clean everything in you, in your heart, in your mind, in your life. Like it really comes a long way. I'm literally fucking crying, bro, because I just remember that time, and I will forever remember that time. Where God made me free. Like he literally freed me from so much. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't from one day to another. There was a lot, and it was a whole process that I had to go through. But the number one thing that he did was rebuild that trust and that relationship with my mom. Like I said, guys, I felt like something was stabbing me in my heart. Like it was just pain. Like I just felt so much pain, and I just kept telling God, like, God, take it. I forgive everybody. I decided to forgive people even if people never apologized to me. My mother, my father, they never apologized to me. And grandparents, just family members, they never apologized to me for the things that I felt. Maybe they didn't know how I felt, but that's why you have to take accountability and be self-aware, because sometimes you cause pain on people that you don't even realize. And that's the worst part, when you cause pain and don't realize that you're causing pain. But if you realize that you're causing pain and you're still doing it, it's just because you're just cruel, and that's just who you are as a person. And I remember, once again, back to the story, like I remember, you guys, like I literally kept crying, bawling myself out, and just telling God, like, I forgive them. I forgive everybody. I forgive my dad. I forgive my mom. I forgive my family. I forgive everybody that has ever done me wrong. And I was so into it that I even said, I forgive those people that did harm to my cousin. I forgive those people that caused my family pain. Guys, it was something crazy. Like, oh my God, it's kind of hard to explain. Like, it's crazy, man. And I just kept saying that I forgive them, take everything from my heart, the pain, the resentment, the anger, take it all. And at the end, guys, guess who was always there, rubbing my back, crying with me? My mama. Once I got up, cleaning my tears, guess who came to hug me? My mama. And guess what's the first thing that she said? She literally came to me, hugged me, and she literally told me, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being a bad mom. I'm sorry for everything that I have said, for everything that I have done, just sorry. And I started crying again. And I even told her, like, I'm sorry for being a bad daughter. I'm sorry for making you feel like unappreciated and all that. And I just apologized back. And we hugged it out like we never had hugged, we hugged it out how we have never hugged before. We literally hugged it out and we apologized to each other. And for the first time, we literally told each other that we loved each other. And yeah, guys, it's literally, it's a hard process. That's the thing. Breaking generational curses, cycles, like it's always a hard thing. It's always a hard thing, you guys. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be all sweet. It's probably gonna be bitter, It's not always gonna be smooth and like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like we haven't had our arguments. Me and my mama have had our arguments, but they're just much more different. You know why? Because we are now different. And that's why, that's why everything is so much better, because she is a complete different woman and I am now a complete different woman than what I was as well. So, we sit down, we can understand each other. Even if we do argue, we always end up hitting each other back up within like that day. We don't leave those things in our heart. We don't leave those things in our mind. We don't just sit on them. We don't sit on those feelings. Like, no, we talk it out. And if we have to apologize, then we apologize, because just because you apologize doesn't mean you're belittling yourself or you're bowing down to somebody. That's your ego talking, drop your ego. I feel like when you have a big ego, it just never takes you anywhere good. It never brings anything good into your life or anything positive, So once again, you guys heard how I decided to forgive. Even without an apology. My mom did end up apologizing to me, but look at how God worked. Look at how God worked in that situation where I didn't need an apology. In my heart, I was getting rid of all that bullshit that was in my heart, all that trash that was stuck in my heart. I wasn't forgiving them because they were coming here apologizing to me. I forgave them for my own freedom, for my own sanity, for my own peace. I wanted to be different. I didn't want to feel I didn't want to feel anything like that. In this experience, I am now 26 years old, and this experience happened to me when I was about 17 years old, I believe. Yeah, I was like around 17, 18 years old. Think about it. I was in the streets for a while. Like, I was literally a fucking minor, a kid, and I had that experience 17, 18, and I had already gone through so much bullshit that I had all that in my heart, bro. And throughout that time, I'm now 26. It's almost been 10 years. Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's literally crazy. It's like a roller coaster, nothing's perfect, but thank God it's better than what it was, and yeah, you guys, that's why I feel like just good communication with your loved ones really comes a long way. Being open, having an open heart, an open mind to the people you love will really come a long way. Like, I know that not all parents are bad and pass down trauma and like struggles and all that, but coming from my shoes, that's kind of what happened in my case. So that's why, I want to talk about it, because I know that a lot of us haven't had we weren't born with a golden spoon and a golden crib. We went through a couple, I feel like a lot of us did go through a lot of shit, and we had to overcome ourselves and everything we went through to be better people. And that's why I'm here today speaking about it, because the trauma, the pain, you just have to overcome it. Just like I've been saying, it literally goes a long way, man. It literally heals parts that you didn't even know that needed to be healed, and relationships repaired that you didn't want them to be repaired, or you didn't feel like you needed them to be repaired. But there's always gonna be like a hole. whenever you're missing a parent, a sibling, somebody you deeply love that has been there and that you know that is loyal and real to you, there's always going to be a hole in your heart. You know that there's always going to be something missing, and you're probably always going to wonder what it is. But until you make it right, I don't know how to say it, that emptiness is always going to be there, until you decide to get right with yourself and with God too. But, there's a lot of things, man, like going from bad communication to not saying I love you, to the fear of, just of rejection. There's just so much bullshit that get passed on onto us that we have to break out of. I feel like there comes a point in life when you're an adult where you want to have your own kids, where you probably already have your own kids and you haven't healed certain stuff. Like, how you have kids but haven't healed certain stuff? I think a kid is a blessing, but I think it's a blessing when you do it the right way. I don't know if that makes any sense, or if you agree with, you don't have to agree with me, but I feel like bringing a kid into this world is not just anything or something small. I think it's a huge commitment, something huge in your life where it changes your life forever. So, I feel like I'm 26, guys, and I don't plan on having kids until I'm like past 30. At my 30s, I would definitely start thinking about it, or probably 29, so I could be ready for my 30s. But, yeah, I do not want to bring a child into this world until I know that I am like not perfect, but fully healed, where I am better financially, where we have our own home, where we can raise our kids and all that. Like, I got a head over my shoulders, and there's things that I do want in life and that I am working towards building, because I'm technically building it. I'm not, just bringing a kid into the world for them to go through what I went through, or for me to pass down my anger, my screaming, because that's how I got raised. I was raised being physically hit, physically abused, just with anger. People would talk to me angry, scream at me, like there was no good communication. So that's not something that I want to pass down onto my kids. And sometimes, yes, I have 2 dogs, guys, and sometimes, like, I know it's completely different to have dogs than human children, but I be screaming at my dogs. They annoy the fuck out of me sometimes. And in my head, I'm just like, yeah, like, I know I'm not ready for no damn kids right now. If I talk to like this to my dogs and they annoy me this bad, and I scream at them when they do certain shit that they're not supposed to do, or they're not listening, what makes you think that I'm not gonna be like that with my kids? So, it's just like little things where if you're ready or not. And at this point, I don't think I'm ready to have kids. And not just because of that. Like, obviously, I want to work on myself, emotionally, financially, like everything, even physically, like, yeah. But there's also, my other reason also is because, I want to live my life. Like, these are the last years in my 20s, guys. And, me and my partner just want to live life to the fullest. We want to live. We want to experience things alone. We want to travel alone. And, once the kid comes, then everything's going to be all about the kids. But right now, we're just trying to live life, live life, live lavish and all that shit, But yeah, guys, it's just stuff that makes me believe as well that I will be a good parent, because not many parents prepare themselves like this when they have kids. And the mentality that I have before even having kids kind of, it's gonna set me up for success and for raising some good kids, because that's my ultimate goal, just raising some very good kids. I want my kids to be raised in a good environment, where we can provide so much for them emotionally, and even like stability wise and all that, materialistically, like, stuff that we didn't have growing up. That's my main goal. And yeah, you guys, I feel like, there's just a lot that goes on. I feel like another thing that gets rated is the drinking part. Like I said, I didn't grow up seeing my mom doing these things, but I did have my grandparents and family that did drink. I technically grew up until everybody became Christian. So like I said, I was probably like 7, 8 years old when everybody fully became Christian. I think my mom was started going to church when I was 6, but yeah, by when I was like 8, 9, everybody, meaning like my grandparents and all that, everything changed. But within those years that they weren't Christian and they were stuck in like alcoholism, it was very tough for me. I saw a lot of things. Like I'm not gonna get into full details, but just know that I saw a lot, guys. Like people passed out, like people extremely drunk, like it was just like traumatic a little bit. Yeah, there was so much shit, so much problems, so much fights. It was hard seeing my grandparents in those type of conditions. Mind you, it's not talking crap. This is really their testimony, because at one point alcohol was gonna take my grandma's life, grandparents' life. So, what is tea to many and to how they used to be is actually their real testimony and who they are today. And who they are today is completely different, guys. Like, this is why one day I'm gonna bring my family onto the podcast. How about that? Like, it would probably be in Spanish, but I feel like it would be amazing if I was to bring, like, whether it's my mom, my grandparents, for them to speak out, and give us advice into how we can stop, with alcoholism and all that. Because to be honest, it was a point where alcohol was going to take their life. My grandma went through a lot, which, she ended up going through a very bad depression. And like I said, alcoholism, where it was going to take her life, while she was taking care of me. So it was very traumatic. It was just bad, bad memories. But thankfully everything has changed. My grandma is a woman of God, and I thank God every day for giving me the family that he gave me, even though it did come with struggles. It did come with like certain traumas, but at the end of the day, God fixed our family. He fixed our relationship, and thankfully we're all close. There is no such thing as a broken, divided family. A broken, divided family literally gets nowhere in life. I feel like the power and there's power in being united. If you're not united, I feel like, the enemy, the devil, could just do whatever they want. He wants with you guys. I think being united really brings a lot of power to a family. And that's why I always feel like I am the glue of the family, because I always try to keep everybody together, no matter our differences, no matter what we think, what we say. Like, we could be different, have different POVs, but one thing for sure is that we're going to stick together no matter what. And we're going to have each other's back through right or wrong. Whether people don't like it, like we're going to be there for each other through right or wrong. And that doesn't mean that through the wrong, they're not going to correct us or we're not going to correct each other. Of course we are. But we're going to do that behind closed doors, because, there's no attention needed, bro. Like, I feel like a lot of families just be doing too much, And yeah, that's just how we roll, I'm not sitting here for you guys telling you guys this so you guys can roll how we roll. No, this is just my life, my voice, where I come from. I feel like our parents they don't know any better. They were raised worse than what we were, even if you don't want to admit, but our parents were raised worse than what we were. I know a lot of hateful people aren't going to like this, but to be honest, our parents just gave us what they knew best. Sometimes our parents don't know what's an I love you from their parents. Sometimes the parents don't know what it is to be hugged and loved by their own parents. So they grow up with that in their heart, in their mind, and that's literally what they pass down onto us. And you're gonna sit there and be like, but why couldn't they break the cycle? But why couldn't they do this? I don't know, dude. Go ask God about it. Maybe you and I were the chosen ones. Maybe we were the ones that were called from God to break these cycles. You know, you can't expect more from somebody who never got more. You can't expect more from somebody who got less than what they deserved. And our parents deserved to be loved correctly. They deserved to be taken care of, you know. But back in those times, guys, I feel like everything was completely different. Like the abuse was just much more crazy, and it's stuff that we don't know about. There's stuff that our parents went through that we do not know. There's traumatic things that they went through that we do not know about, and we don't fully understand until we sit down and talk to them, until you start hearing what they went through. You know, that's when you start to realize, like, shit, no wonder she couldn't freaking love me the right way. Shit, no wonder she couldn't even open up and tell me that she loves me, you know, or he, you know. Yeah, guys, it's just crazy, you know. It's just ongoing cycles until that one chosen person decides to stand up and say, nah, bro, like, this stops here with me, you know. And that's just how it should be. And if you're that person, I feel like life is not easy for you. I feel like you're always gonna get tempted. You're always gonna go through struggles, flaws. Like, you're always gonna go through things that are gonna want to bring you back to square one. But it's up to you whether you follow through or you don't. And at this point, I'm 26 years old, man. I can't blame nobody for my life. You know, I can't blame my parents. I can't blame my grandparents. I can't blame nobody but myself, because I am a full adult. Our parents were raised with a victimized mindset, and that's the reason why they couldn't give us what they weren't given. You know what I mean? So it's just different with us, or with me, I would say, because I don't have a victimized mindset. I'm not going to tell my kid, I can't love you because I wasn't loved correctly. I can't communicate with you because I didn't know what communication was. No, that's why I am deciding to wait to have my kids, so I don't have to bleed on them how my parents bled on me, you know. And that's just the beauty of it. Like, that's how you know, that's how you see growth in somebody, you know, because that's how you see growth, and that's how you see how someone is trying to break those cycles. And it's tough, you know, it's tough, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You know, everybody's mindset is differently, and if your parents didn't have that mindset, that's why God gave you a purpose in this life. And maybe your purpose was to be, you know, the glue of the family. Maybe your purpose is to make the change in your family, in your generation. And that's all that matters, you know. I feel like once you make a change in your generation and you break those cycles, that's what you start bringing on to the next generations, you know. Then that's just how it is, guys. I feel like when you start healing, a lot of people start seeing you as different. When you put your foot down, value yourself, when you know your worth, people start seeing you as a complicated person. People start seeing you as somebody that just likes to stir the shit up. And no, it's not really that. It's just that, you know, I take accountability for myself and I put my foot down with myself. So having somebody in your life that doesn't do the same, it makes you want to put them in their place. But I feel like, you know, doing these things it has to be in a very smart way, you know, where you won't low-key bring that trauma back into your lives or cross boundaries. You know, I feel like you just got to put people in their place respectfully, and always use that guidance. I feel like outgrowing environments just means like you elevating. You know, when you outgrow environments, you possibly even have to move out of your parents' house. You know, there's certain friends that you got to get rid of or that you outgrow. There's even family members that you have to outgrow when you choose to heal and be a better person, because not everything is aligned. You know, and that's the crazy part. Like, you can help somebody, but you can help them only so much. Like, if they don't want to be freed or elevate with you or grow with you and heal with you, then that's on them. And it's like, you can't stop yourself for nobody. You can't stop yourself just because your parents, grandparents, siblings, whatever, cousins, aunties, whatever, just because they don't want to heal with you and grow or see where you're coming from, it doesn't mean that you need to stop what you have going on for yourself. Value yourself enough, make yourself worthy of your own time, your own self, and keep going. Even if you have to outgrow people, even if you have to leave them behind, that's clearly where they want to be. Hopefully this topic is something that touches your heart, touches your mind, and it helps you meditate into how to be a better person, how to break these cycles, break generational curses, and yeah, guys, I hope that everybody takes at least, I just really hope that whoever watches this, at least one person takes something from this. I hope that at least whoever's watching this, at least one person, 2 people, 3 people, I hope that this topic is something that touches your heart, touches your mind. And if you can relate with me and you still haven't overcame any, curses or patterns, that I hope that today, not this message, well, I hope that today God and this message touches your heart, and brings you into a deep thought into what you should break, the type of pattern that you need to get rid of. We all have something, we all have flaws. There's no such thing as a perfect person, perfect only Jesus Christ. And everybody makes mistakes, everybody has flaws, everybody will make mistakes. We're not perfect. We just better ourselves each and every day. And yeah, you guys, I hope that everybody gets to meditate. Everybody hearing this gets to meditate into what the message was for today. I hope that you guys fully understood where I was coming from. I know that there's a lot of talking, so time flies. And sometimes I just get stuck talking that I don't even realize how long it has been because I'm so into the conversation. I'm trying to make these videos, I'm trying to make the episodes not as long, but like I said, I just get stuck talking that I don't even look at the time. And then when I look at the time, I'm like already an hour in, and there's literally no going back. Something is for sure is that healing is uncomfortable. And the only reason why it's uncomfortable is because it requires change. Growth requires change, and some people are just not ready for that change. Some people like living with their traumas. They don't mind living with a victimized mindset, and that victimized mindset, I feel like, always sets you back and keeps you in that dark hole that you want to get out of. So I feel like everything is just step by step. Like, you can't take a big step and pretend like your life just gave a 360 turn, because it doesn't. It really doesn't. I feel like the first thing that has to change is your mentality. And after your mentality changes, that's when everything around you is going to change. But yeah, guys, there's no healing without growth, and there's no growth without change, and there's no change without accountability. So, I just hope you guys, I just hope that you guys really understood where I was coming from. This is, like I said, my voice, my life, and it's literally what I'm opening up to you guys about. Before we wrap this up, I really want this last outro, I really want this last moment to be a little bit special. I want everybody to feel what this message was for today. And I just want everybody to take a second, and I just want everybody listening right now to really kind of take a second to think, what is one thing in your bloodline that you refuse to continue? Maybe it's sadness, maybe it's depression, maybe it's anger, maybe it's settling, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's silence, maybe it's alcoholism, maybe it's hate, maybe it's ego, Maybe it's bad communication. It could be anything. And I am going to take the time because, like I said, I am not perfect. I also have my flaws. So I'm going to take my time to also meditate and see what else there is in my bloodline being passed down even till this day that I can break. Now, I want you and I to remember and to always remember and to tell ourselves right now, I am not trapped by where I come from. I can love and be there for my family, but I could still choose differently. I can take accountability. I can heal. I can grow. I can change. I can become the person needed growing up. And that is something that always sticks with me because I feel like I knew the exact person that I needed growing up. And it puts me in a space where I want to become that person. I want to become that person for my parents. I want to become that person for my siblings, for my grandparents. Think about the age difference between me and my grandparents, me and my parents. And I'm sitting here telling you that I want to be that person. I am going to become the person I needed growing up. And that right there is pure strength. If this episode touched you guys in any way, just know that you guys are not alone with this. Let's wrap this shit up because there's gonna be a part 2 to this. Remember, guys, you guys are tuned in to the NV podcast where it is all real talk, real vibes, and no caps. Remember, guys, to stay solid, stay humble, stay blessed, and gratitude over everything. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Oh, yeah. Woo!